The Galactic Council chamber floated in the darkness of space like a giant crystal. Inside, beings from hundreds of different worlds sat in their designated areas. Some had scales, others had fur, and some were made of pure energy. They all waited for the session to begin. Commander Hyunwoo stood near the back of the human section. His dark uniform was pressed and clean, but he felt uncomfortable. The other species always looked at humans with disgust or amusement. He had been coming to these meetings for 2 years now, and nothing ever changed. Ambassador Ji-won sat in the front row. She was older than Hyunwoo, with gray streaks in her black hair. She had been patient for 3 long years, speaking kindly to beings who treated her like a child. Today, she would make another request for Earth to join the Galactic Council as a full member. The Arbiter Vexthor entered the chamber. He was tall, almost 3 meters high, with a body that looked like it was made of dark metal and chitin. His 4 eyes glowed red as he took his position at the center podium. His voice echoed through the vast room. The Council will now address Petition 7419. The humans of Earth request full membership status. Ji-won stood up. She walked to the speaker's platform with dignity. Hyunwoo watched her and felt proud. She never lost her composure even when they mocked her. Honored Council, Ji-won began. Earth has followed every protocol. We have opened our borders to Council inspectors. We have shared our technology and culture. We have proven our commitment to peace. 3 years have passed since our first application. We ask again for membership. A sound like laughter filled the chamber. It came from Senator Crix, a being made of purple gas contained in a floating sphere. His voice was sharp and cruel. The humans speak of peace, but their history tells another story. They have fought thousands of wars on their own planet. They kill their own kind over resources, beliefs, and land. How can we trust such violent creatures? Other council members made sounds of agreement. Hyunwoo clenched his fists but stayed silent. Ji-won remained calm. Every species has a difficult past. The Velkari conquered 12 systems before joining this council. The Andovarians fought civil wars for centuries. Growth and change are possible. Humans have been at peace for 40 years now. 40 years. Crix's laughter grew louder. We measure civilization in millennia, not decades. Your species only achieved faster than light travel 30 years ago. You are infants playing with technology you barely understand. Vexthor raised one of his blade-like arms. The chamber fell silent. The council will vote on a motion presented by Senator Crix. The motion proposes not only denying Earth's membership, but also imposing trade restrictions on human-controlled space. Hyunwoo's eyes widened. This was worse than a simple rejection. Trade restrictions would hurt Earth's colonies badly. Many of them depended on resources from other systems. Ji-won spoke urgently. This is unfair. Earth has done nothing to deserve punishment. We seek only equality and cooperation. The motion is seconded, Vexthor announced, ignoring her words. Council members, cast your votes. The voting display appeared in the center of the chamber. It was a holographic sphere that showed each species' decision. Green meant support for humans. Red meant support for the restrictions. Yellow meant abstaining from the vote. The sphere began to fill with color. Red dominated almost immediately. Hyunwoo watched as species after species voted against Earth. Some he recognized as trading partners. Others were civilizations that humans had helped with disaster relief or medical supplies. None of that mattered now. The final count appeared. 794 voted red, 41 voted yellow. Only 12 voted green. The motion passes, Vexthor declared. Earth's membership application is denied. Trade restrictions will be implemented immediately. Earth may reapply for membership in 5 standard years, pending a period of observation and improvement. Ji-won stood frozen at the podium. Her face showed no emotion, but Hyunwoo could see the tension in her shoulders. She bowed slightly and returned to her seat. The council moved on to other business as if humans didn't exist. Hyunwoo helped Ji-won gather her documents. They walked toward the exit in silence. As they passed through the corridors of the council station, Hyunwoo noticed something odd. A group of Velkari officers were standing near a communication terminal, speaking in low voices. The Velkari were a warrior species with dark blue skin and sharp features. They controlled a large military force. One of them glanced at Hyunwoo and smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Hyunwoo's military training kicked in. He activated his personal recorder discreetly and walked closer, pretending to examine a wall display. The Velkari continued talking, apparently not caring who heard them. The restrictions make it perfect, one said. Their colonies will be isolated and weak. When do we begin? Another asked. 3 weeks. The council has already agreed to look the other way. They want the humans taught a lesson. Hyunwoo felt his blood run cold. He quickly moved away and caught up with Ji-won. They entered their small diplomatic ship without speaking to anyone else. Once inside, Hyunwoo played the recording. Ji-won listened with growing horror. They planned this, she whispered. The vote, the restrictions. It was all designed to make us vulnerable. We need to warn Earth Command immediately, Hyunwoo said. Already moving to the communication console, he sent an encrypted message to Earth using the fastest channels available. The message was simple but urgent. Possible attack on human colonies imminent. Council involvement suspected. Recommend highest alert status. Ji-won slumped in her chair. 3 years of diplomatic work had been wasted. Worse, they had walked into a trap while trying to make peace. What kind of galaxy is this? She asked quietly. They speak of civilization and law, but they plot attacks on those seeking to join them. Hyunwoo had no answer. He had been a soldier before becoming a diplomatic officer. He understood military strategy and defense, but this kind of political cruelty was something he had not expected from an organization that claimed to represent Galactic. First, the ship began its journey back to Earth. It would take several days, even at maximum speed. Hyunwoo spent those days reviewing every conversation, every meeting, every interaction he had observed at the council. The signs had been there all along. The contempt, the dismissiveness, the way certain species looked at human-controlled systems with hungry eyes. Earth had been naive. They had believed that showing peaceful intentions would be enough. They had thought that following the rules would earn them respect. Instead, it had painted a target on their backs. As they approached Earth's solar system, a priority message came through. Hyunwoo's face went pale as he read it. What is it? Ji-won asked. Intelligence reports confirm your fears. 7 species led by the Velkari Dominion are mobilizing their fleets. They plan to attack 6 of our colony systems simultaneously. Ji-won closed her eyes. How long do we have? 2 weeks at most. The ambassador opened her eyes again. There was something different in them now. The patient diplomat was gone. What remained was a human being who had tried peace and been answered with treachery. Send a message to Earth Command, she said firmly. Tell them to prepare for war. Tell them the time for patience is over. If the galaxy wants to see what humans really are when pushed too far, then we will show them. Hyunwoo sent the message. As he did, he thought about the Council's arrogance. They had called humans primitive and violent. They had laughed at Earth's 40 years of peace. They had no idea what was coming. Earth had spent those 40 years of peace-building, learning, and preparing. Not because they wanted war, but because they knew the galaxy might not be as civilized as it claimed to be. Now that knowledge would be tested. The ship docked at Earth Station 1. Hyunwoo and Ji-won were met by military personnel who escorted them directly to the Defense Council's headquarters. The real decisions would be made there in rooms the Galactic Council knew nothing about. As they descended into the secure facility, Hyunwoo felt a strange calm. The waiting was over. Soon, the galaxy would learn an important lesson about humanity. Push peaceful people too far, and they will remind you why they chose peace in the first place. The alarms began at 0400 hours station time. Governor Minna was pulled from sleep by the urgent wailing that meant only one thing: attack. She ran to the command center, still pulling on her jacket. Proxima Station was humanity's first major colony beyond the solar system. 50,000 people lived and worked there, mining rare minerals and building a new home under alien suns. Minna had governed this place for 6 years. She knew every corridor, every family, every child. The tactical display showed her worst nightmare. 12 Velkari warships had dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. They were heading directly toward the station. How long until they reach us? Minna asked. Her tactical officer, a young man named Tae-min, worked frantically at his console. 2 hours at their current speed, Governor. Send distress calls on all channels. Get me Earth Command. Start evacuation procedures for sectors 3 through 7. Those are closest to the docking areas. The communications officer looked up with fear in her eyes. Governor, we're receiving similar distress calls from 5 other colonies. They're all under attack. This is coordinated. Minna felt her stomach drop. 6 colonies at once. This wasn't a raid or a border dispute. This was war. The Valkyrie fleet commander's face appeared on the main screen. He had the typical features of his species: dark blue skin, sharp angular features, and cold black eyes. His armor was decorated with symbols that represented conquered worlds. "Human Colony Proxima Station," he said in accented but clear English. "I am War Master Krixthar of the Valkyrie Dominion. You have 1 hour to surrender completely. Power down all weapons, open your docking bays, and prepare to receive occupation forces. If you resist, we will destroy your station and everyone on it." Mina stepped forward. "This is an unprovoked act of war." "The Galactic Council," Krixthar laughed. "The Council knows." They approved. "You humans need to learn your place." 1 hour. The screen went dark. Mina turned to her officers. "He's lying about the hour. They'll fire as soon as they're in range. Taman, activate every defense we have. Wake up the militia. Get the civilians to the shelters. Governor, we only have 4 defensive platforms and maybe 200 armed militia members. They have 12 warships. I know the odds. Do it anyway." Across the station, people ran through corridors carrying children and emergency supplies. The militia armed themselves with whatever weapons the colony possessed, mostly mining equipment modified for defense. It was pathetic compared to military warships, but they would fight anyway. Mina watched the Valkyrie fleet approach. She had sent her distress call, but even if Earth sent help immediately, it would take days to arrive. They were alone. 20 million kilometers away, Captain Yuna sat on the bridge of the battlecruiser Indomitable. Her ship had been on patrol near the Proxima system when the attack began. Now she was racing toward the colony at maximum speed, knowing she would probably arrive too late. Yuna was young for a capital ship commander, only 32 years old. She had black hair cut short for convenience and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her crew trusted her completely. "Status?" she asked. Her tactical officer responded immediately. "Proxima Station is under attack by 12 Valkyrie warships. 5 other colonies are also reporting attacks. The Indomitable is the only Earth military vessel within range of any of them." "How many ships do they have total?" "Intelligence estimates over 100 warships engaged in the operation across all 6 systems." Yuna closed her eyes briefly. 100 ships. This was a full invasion force. Earth's entire military couldn't respond fast enough to save everyone. "How long until we reach Proxima?" 90 minutes. Push the engines harder." "I want 60 minutes. "Captain, that could damage." "Do it." At Proxima Station, the Valkyrie opened fire. The first bombardment wasn't aimed at the defensive platforms. It was aimed at the civilian sectors. Mina watched in horror as energy beams tore through the station's outer hull. Whole sections decompressed instantly. Alarms screamed as life support failed in multiple areas. The death count began climbing on her display. "Return fire," she shouted. The defensive platforms launched missiles and fired their small railguns. A few shots hit Valkyrie shields but did minimal damage. The enemy ships spread out and continued their bombardment methodically. Taman's hand shook as he worked. "Sectors 9 and 10 are gone. We've lost contact with evacuation shelters in those areas. That's over 4,000 people." Mina wanted to scream, to cry, to give up. Instead, she forced herself to stay calm. "Reroute emergency power to the remaining shelters. Concentrate all defensive fire on the lead ship. If we can damage one, maybe they'll reconsider." It was a desperate hope. The Valkyrie showed no hesitation. They fired again and again. Proxima Station, humanity's proud achievement, was being torn apart. Then the militia captain, a woman named Bora, reported something unexpected. "Governor, we've armed the mining charges. If they try to board us, we can set them off in the docking corridors. That will kill our own people too." Bora's voice was steady. "Better than slavery. We voted on it. If they board, we blow the charges." Mina looked at the faces on her command screen. These were farmers, engineers, teachers, and miners. They weren't soldiers, but they were ready to die rather than surrender. "Approved," Mina said quietly, "but only as a last resort." The Indomitable burst into the Proxima system like an avenging angel. Yuna's engineering crew had pushed the engines beyond safe limits and gained 30 minutes. It might not be enough, but it was something. "All weapons online," Yuna commanded. "Target the Valkyrie ships that are closest to the station. I want them to know we're here." The battlecruiser's main railguns fired. The projectiles crossed the distance in seconds and slammed into a Valkyrie destroyer. The enemy ship's shields flickered and failed. The second volley punched through its hull. Atmosphere vented into space as the destroyer listed to one side, badly damaged. The Velkari fleet immediately changed formation. 6 of their ships turned to face the Indomitable, while the other 6 continued bombarding the station. Krixthar's face appeared on Yuna's screen. "One ship? Earth sends one ship? Your arrogance will cost you everything." Yuna smiled coldly. "We'll see." The battle became chaos. The Indomitable was outnumbered 6-1, but Yuna was a brilliant tactical commander. She used the station's debris field for cover, fired from unexpected angles, and kept moving constantly. Her crew worked perfectly together, each member knowing their role. They damaged 2 more Velkari ships, but the Indomitable was taking hits too. Hull breaches appeared on multiple decks. The shield generators were operating at critical levels. At the station, Minna watched the battle with desperate hope. The Earth ship was buying them time, but everyone could see it was a losing fight. Eventually, the Indomitable would be overwhelmed. "Governor," Taemin said suddenly, "I'm detecting faster-than-light signatures. Multiple ships incoming. Velkari reinforcements? No, these are ours. Earth Defense Fleet signatures. 20 ships, no, 30 ships. They're still coming through." Minna felt tears in her eyes. Earth Command had sent help. It had taken 3 weeks for the attack to happen, just as the intelligence had warned. But Earth had used that time to prepare. The Earth fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Admiral Tae Yang commanded from the flagship Resolute. He was a hard man with gray hair and a reputation for brilliant strategy. His fleet didn't bother with communications or warnings. They simply opened fire with everything they had. The Velkari ships that had been focused on destroying the Indomitable suddenly found themselves under attack from multiple directions. The battle turned instantly. Where 1 Earth ship had been a nuisance, 30 was a catastrophe for the attackers. Krixthar tried to regroup his forces, but Tae Yang gave them no chance. The Earth fleet used coordinated firing patterns that overwhelmed enemy shields. They used new weapons the Velkari had never seen before. Missiles that split into dozens of smaller projectiles, railguns firing at incredible velocities, and something that looked like lightning jumping between ships. Within 20 minutes, 4 Velkari ships were destroyed. The rest retreated into faster-than-light travel, abandoning their invasion. But the victory felt hollow. Proxima Station was heavily damaged. When the final count came in, 40,000 people had died. 4,000 more were injured. Entire sections of the station would need to be completely rebuilt. Minna walked through the damaged corridors, seeing bodies covered with sheets, children crying for parents who would never answer, and the blank faces of survivors in shock. Yuna visited the station after the battle. She found Minna in what remained of the command center. "You fought well," Yuna said. "We lost 40,000 people. How is that fighting well?" "Because 50,000 more are alive because you didn't give up." Minna looked at the younger woman. "What happens now?" "Now Earth decides how to respond. The reports from other colonies are just as bad. Over 100,000 dead across all 6 attacks. The Galactic Council has convened but refuses to intervene. They say this is an internal dispute between developing species." "Internal dispute? This was attempted genocide." "I know." A message came through on Yuna's communicator. She read it and her expression changed. Something hard and dangerous appeared in her eyes. Deep beneath Earth's Pacific Ocean, 3 kilometers below the surface, a facility existed that no alien species knew about. It had no official name in any public records. The people who worked there simply called it the Garden. Dr. Dong-hyun had worked in the Garden for 15 years. He was a physicist who specialized in weapons that most of the galaxy would consider impossible or insane. Today, he stood in the Central Command Center watching displays that showed the aftermath of the colony attacks. His face was tired, but determined. "Begin activation sequence," he said quietly. Around him, dozens of technicians worked at their stations. Lights flickered as systems that had been dormant for years came to life. Power readings climbed. Weapons platforms hidden throughout the solar system and beyond began receiving initialization codes. Minister Hae-won entered the command center. She was the head of Earth's Defense Council, one of only 12 people who knew the full extent of Earth's secret military programs. She looked at the displays showing weapon systems coming online and nodded with satisfaction. "How long until full operational status?" she asked. 6 hours for the local systems. 24 hours for the Deep Space Network. Everything will be ready when the fleet is. Good. The Council thought they were teaching us a lesson. They have no idea what's about to happen. Far above, in Earth's orbital command station, General Su Jin was briefing fleet commanders from around the solar system. The holographic display showed the disposition of human forces and the locations of enemy homeworlds. Su Jin was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a reputation for ruthless efficiency. She had been planning for this day since Earth first made contact with the Galactic Council 30 years ago. While diplomats like Jiwan had tried to make peace, Su Jin had prepared for war. "Gentlemen and ladies," she began, "the galaxy has made a mistake. They thought we were weak because we sought peace. They thought we were primitive because our technology developed differently than theirs. They were wrong on both counts." She activated the display. It showed Earth's actual military capabilities, not the limited forces that had been visible to Council observers. The fleet commanders stared in shock. Even most of them hadn't known the full extent of Earth's preparations. "For 30 years we have studied galactic warfare," Su Jin continued. "We found it stagnant and predictable. They rely on energy shields and directed energy weapons. They fight according to conventions established thousands of years ago. We will not." She pulled up weapon specifications. "Our kinetic weapons fire projectiles at 90% light speed. Their shields are designed to deflect energy, not mass moving that fast. Our nanophage weapons can dissolve hull armor in minutes. Our quantum mines are already positioned near every major trade route in Council space. And our hunter-killer drones have artificial intelligence that makes them more effective than any piloted fighter." Admiral Taeyang, who had just returned from the Proxima battle, spoke up. "This level of weaponry, it goes against every galactic convention." "They'll call us barbarians." Su Jin turned to him. "They already call us that. The difference is now we'll prove we're barbarians they should have left alone. Admiral, you've seen what they did to our colonies. 40,000 dead at Proxima alone. Over 100,000 total. How many more will die if we show mercy to those who showed us none?" The room fell silent. Every commander present had lost someone in the attacks. Every one of them had seen the reports of civilians killed, children orphaned, families destroyed. "We're not going to fight defensively," Su Jin said. "We're taking the war to their homeworlds. Each of the 7 species that attacked us will receive a visit from our fleets. We're not conquering their territory. We're sending a message that will echo across the galaxy for the next 1,000 years." She turned to a younger officer standing at attention near the back. "Lieutenant Jaewon, step forward." Jaewon was the leader of Ghost Corps, Earth's most elite special forces unit. He was 30 years old, compact and muscular, with scars on his hands from countless missions. His unit specialized in infiltration and sabotage. "Lieutenant, your mission is to infiltrate the Velkari home system and capture their supreme military commander. Alive. We want the galaxy to see him surrender." Jaewon nodded once. "Understood, General. My team is ready." "Good, you depart in 6 hours. The fleet will follow behind you." After the briefing ended, Taeyang found Su Jin in her private office. "This is total war doctrine," he said. "We haven't fought like this since the old days on Earth." "I know what it is," Su Jin replied. "But consider the alternative. If we respond weakly, they'll attack again and again. Every species in the galaxy will see us as prey. But if we respond with overwhelming force, if we show them that attacking humanity costs more than any victory is worth, we buy ourselves generations of peace." "At what cost to our souls?" Su Jin looked at him steadily. "I've made my peace with that. The question is, have you? Because I need you to lead this fleet, Taeyang. I need someone who understands both the mission and the burden it carries." The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. Then he straightened. "I'll do it. For Proxima. For all of them." In the garden, Dr. Donghyun was giving his own briefing to a select group of weapons specialists. He displayed schematics for devices that had never been used in actual combat. "This is the Planet Cracker," he said, pointing to a design on the screen. "It doesn't destroy planets despite the name, but it can shatter a moon into an asteroid field in under 15 seconds. We'll be demonstrating it in Council space as a warning." A younger scientist raised her hand. "Dr. Donghyun, these weapons, they're so destructive. Did we really need to build them?" The old physicist was quiet for a moment. 20 years ago, I asked myself the same question. But then I studied galactic history. Do you know how many species have been enslaved or exterminated since the Council was formed? 47. Do you know how many times the Council intervened to stop it? 0. The galaxy respects only one thing: strength. We built these weapons so we'd never need to use them. Now we have no choice. The Ouroboros network was the crown jewel of Earth's secret military program. Over the past 30 years, automated construction vessels had placed weapons platforms throughout the galaxy. They looked like asteroids or space debris, but each one contained enough firepower to cripple a major space station. They were positioned near Council territories, trade routes, and strategic systems. If activated, they could paralyze galactic commerce and communication within hours. It was the ultimate insurance policy. Now, in the garden, technicians activated the network for the first time. Thousands of platforms came online across hundreds of light years. Each one received targeting data and authorization codes. They would remain dormant until needed, but they were ready. One technician, a man named Young-Soo, stared at his screen in awe. We really did it. We seeded the entire galaxy with weapons and nobody knew. His supervisor, an older woman named Miran, nodded. The Council was so busy dismissing us as primitive that they never looked closely at our cargo vessels. They never wondered why we sent so many research probes to remote locations. Their arrogance was our advantage. On board the stealth ship Shadow's Edge, Lieutenant Jae-won was briefing his team. There were 12 of them, all volunteers, all with specialized training that went far beyond normal military service. The mission is simple in concept, difficult in execution, Jae-won said. We infiltrate the Velkari home system, locate War Master Krixthar, and extract him. The fleet will be engaging their defenses, which will provide our distraction. A team member named Sung-min asked, "What if he's already dead when we get there?" Then we take his second in command. Someone high-ranking needs to surrender publicly. The psychological impact is crucial. Another member, a woman named Hye-jin, looked worried. 12 people against an entire military command structure. Those are bad odds, Jae-won smiled grimly. We're Ghost Corps. Bad odds are our specialty. The Shadow's Edge was one of Earth's most advanced vessels. It used technology that bent light around its hull, making it effectively invisible to most sensors. The team would insert near the Velkari homeworld, wait for the fleet battle to begin, then strike while the enemy was distracted. Back on Earth, Ambassador Ji-won met with Minister Hae-won in a secure government facility. The ambassador had spent the past week reviewing intelligence reports and military plans. She looked exhausted. "This is not what I wanted," Ji-won said quietly. "I spent 3 years trying to avoid this exact situation, I know," Hae-won replied. But they made their choice. They chose to see peaceful overtures as weakness. Now they'll learn the difference between choosing peace and being incapable of war. After this is over, will we be any better than them? That depends on what we do next. If we use this power to conquer and oppress, then no. But if we use it to enforce a real peace, to protect species who can't protect themselves, then maybe we can be something better than the Council ever was. Ji-won looked out the window at the Earth below. Somewhere down there, families were mourning children killed in the colony attacks. Somewhere, parents were planning funerals. The weight of those deaths pressed on her. "Do what needs to be done," she said finally. "But remember that every life we take, even in justified retaliation, is a weight we'll carry forever." The Velkari home system had been secure for 3,000 years. Their homeworld orbited a blue-white star, surrounded by massive defense stations and a fleet of over 200 warships. They were a warrior culture, proud of their military strength. When their scouts reported an incoming human fleet, War Master Krixthar felt only amusement. 50 ships, he said to his officers. "The humans bring 50 ships against our 200. They truly are as stupid as the Council claimed." His tactical officer, a veteran named Velkor, was less certain. "War Master, our intelligence on human military capabilities is limited. Perhaps caution." "Caution?" Krixthar's laugh echoed in the command center. "We will destroy them and then finish what we started at their colonies. Prepare the fleet for engagement." The Velkari fleet moved into a standard defensive formation. They had used these tactics for centuries. Energy shields overlapping, creating a wall of protection. Weapons charged and ready to fire in coordinated volleys. It was a formation that had never failed them. They had no idea what was about to happen. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Admiral Tae-yang stood on the bridge of the Resolute and studied the enemy formation with cold eyes. He had studied Velkari tactics for years. He knew exactly how they would respond to every situation. That predictability would be their downfall. All ships, he ordered, execute attack pattern Savage Garden. The human fleet split into 5 groups and accelerated toward the enemy at speeds that made the Velkari sensors flash warnings. They weren't following any known tactical doctrine. They were moving too fast, spreading too wide, abandoning the tight formations that protected against energy weapons. Krixthar watched with satisfaction. They panic already. All ships open fire when in range. The Velkari fleet fired first. Hundreds of energy beams lanced across space toward the human ships. The humans' shields absorbed some hits, but several ships took direct damage. One small destroyer was destroyed completely, but the humans didn't slow down or retreat. They kept coming, then they fired back. The first volley was from the railguns. These weren't the small railguns the Velkari had encountered at Proxima Station. These were massive weapons firing projectiles the size of cars at 90% of light speed. The Velkari shields were designed to deflect energy. They did almost nothing against solid mass moving at relativistic speeds. 3 Velkari cruisers simply exploded as the projectiles punched through shields, armor, and hull like they were paper. The projectiles had so much kinetic energy that they created secondary explosions throughout each ship. What? Krixthar started to say. But then the second wave hit. Captain Bora commanded the stealth destroyer Shadow's Edge. Her ship and 5 others had entered the system hours before the main fleet, using their stealth systems to avoid detection. Now they were positioned inside the Velkari formation. All ships, Bora ordered, activate the quantum mines. Throughout the Velkari fleet, devices that looked like small asteroids suddenly activated. They had been drifting through the system for weeks, placed there by automated drones waiting for this moment. Each mine contained a small amount of antimatter suspended in a quantum field. The mines detonated. 20 Velkari ships disappeared in brilliant flashes of annihilation. The explosions were so powerful that nearby ships were damaged by the radiation and shock waves. The perfect defensive formation became chaos as ships tried to avoid the blasts and debris. Krixthar's command ship shook from a nearby explosion. How did they get mines inside our formation? Where did they come from? No one had an answer. The tactical displays were showing impossible things. Human ships appearing where sensors said there was nothing, weapons that made no sense. The Velkari were fighting an enemy they didn't understand. Captain Yuna commanded a battle group of 10 ships that focused on the left flank of the Velkari formation. Her Indomitable led the charge, firing railguns and something new, nanophage missiles. These missiles didn't explode. They embedded themselves in enemy hulls and released microscopic machines that began dissolving the metal and composite materials. Within minutes, holes appeared in the armor of 6 Velkari ships. Atmosphere vented. Internal systems failed. The ships became floating wrecks. From one of those wrecks, escape pods launched. The Velkari crew had abandoned ship. Yuna's tactical officer prepared to target the pods, but Yuna stopped him. No, let them go. We're here to break their military, not commit genocide. They'll tell everyone what happened here. That's almost as valuable as destroying the ships. Meanwhile, in another part of the battle, Commander Hyunwoo led a squadron of fighter craft equipped with hunter-killer drones. These small drones had artificial intelligence that allowed them to identify and attack weak points in enemy ships without any human control. Hyunwoo launched a wave of 1,000 drones. They swarmed through the Velkari formation like angry insects. Each one targeted specific systems: engines, weapons, shield generators. The Velkari tried to shoot them down, but there were too many moving too fast. Within 10 minutes, 30 Velkari ships had been disabled. Not destroyed, but rendered unable to fight. Hyunwoo had fulfilled his orders perfectly. Maximum damage with minimum killing. The battle had been raging for only 20 minutes, and the Velkari fleet was already broken. They had lost over 70 ships. The survivors were in complete disarray, their formations shattered, their tactics useless against these strange human weapons. Krixthar stared at his displays in disbelief. This is impossible. How can 50 ships defeat 200? Velkor provided the answer quietly. Because they're not fighting like we expected. They're not fighting like anyone we've ever encountered. War Master, we need to retreat. Retreat? Krixthar's pride rebelled against the idea. The Velkari had never retreated from their own home system. Never. Reform the fleet. We still have over 100 ships. An alarm cut him off. The tactical display showed something new. A single small ship had somehow penetrated their defenses and was approaching his flagship. It was the Shadow's Edge, with Lieutenant J1 and his Ghost Corps team aboard. Bora brought her ship alongside Krixthar's flagship. The vessel was enormous, a mobile fortress that served as the command center for the entire Velkari military. Boarding it should have been impossible, but Ghost Corps specialized in impossible missions. Initiate boarding protocol, J1 ordered. The Shadow's Edge fired specialized cutting charges that bored through the flagship's armor. Before the Velkari could respond, 12 Ghost Corps operators were inside the ship, moving through corridors with ruthless efficiency. They encountered resistance immediately. Velkari soldiers rushed to defend their War Master. J1's team dealt with them using weapons and tactics the enemy had never seen. Stun weapons that disrupted nervous systems, armor that made them nearly invisible, training that made them faster and more precise than any normal soldier. Sungmin took point, using a scanner that showed enemy positions through walls. Hyjin covered their rear, ensuring no ambushes. The team moved like a single organism, each member knowing exactly what the others would do. They reached the command center in just 8 minutes. Krixthar and his officers were waiting with weapons drawn. "You think 12 warriors can capture me?" Krixthar snarled. "I am War Master of the Velkari Dominion. I have conquered 100 worlds." J1 didn't waste time with speeches. He simply threw a small device onto the floor. It emitted a pulse that overloaded the Velkari weapon's power cells. The weapon sparked and died useless. "Your turn is over," J1 said quietly. "War Master Krixthar, you are under arrest for war crimes against humanity. You can come peacefully or we can drag you. Your choice." Krixthar charged at them with his bare hands. He was large and strong, a warrior bred for combat, but Hyjin moved like water, redirecting his charge and striking pressure points that made his legs collapse. Within seconds, the mighty War Master was on his knees, restraints on his wrists. "This is a violation of all galactic law," Velkor shouted. You violated our colonies," J1 interrupted. "You killed 100,000 civilians. We're just collecting what's owed. Tell your remaining ships to stand down or we'll continue the demonstration." Outside, Admiral Taeyang had been waiting for this moment. When J1's signal came through, he opened a broadcast on all frequencies, not just to the Velkari fleet, but to the entire galaxy. Every species with communication technology would receive this message. The image showed Krixthar on his knees, restrained, with human soldiers standing over him. The proud War Master who had ordered the attack on Proxima Station now looked broken and defeated. "This is Admiral Taeyang of the Earth Defense Fleet," he said. 3 weeks ago, this individual ordered an unprovoked attack on human colonies. He killed 40,000 civilians at Proxima Station alone. Today he has been captured and will face trial for his crimes. He paused, letting the image sink in across the galaxy. But he is not the only one responsible. The Galactic Council approved these attacks. They voted to restrict Earth's trade and leave our colonies vulnerable. They thought we were too weak to matter, too primitive to deserve respect. The camera view changed, showing the battlefield, Velkari ships burning or disabled, human vessels moving through the wreckage. The Galactic Council chambers had never been this quiet. Beings from 847 different species sat in their designated areas, but none spoke. They all waited for the humans to arrive. 3 days had passed since the Battle of Velkar Prime. In that time, 6 more human fleets had visited the homeworlds of the other species that had attacked the colonies. Each battle had been swift and decisive. Each enemy fleet had been crushed. Each military leader had been captured or killed. And each battle had been broadcast across the galaxy for everyone to witness. The message was clear. Earth could reach anyone, anywhere, at any time. There was nowhere in Council space that was safe from human retaliation, but the most shocking revelation had been the Ouroboros network. Every major civilization had scrambled to find the hidden weapons platforms near their territory. What they discovered terrified them. The platforms were everywhere, positioned perfectly to cripple trade and communication. Earth had been preparing for war while smiling and asking for peace. Now the Council would face the consequences of their arrogance. The main entrance opened. Prime Minister Sung Ho entered first. He was in his 60s with gray hair and eyes that had seen humanity rise from a single planet to a spacefaring civilization. Behind him came the people who had made Earth's retaliation possible. Ambassador Ji-Wan, Commander Hyun Woo, General Su Jin, Admiral Tae Yang, and several others. But it wasn't a large delegation. Earth didn't need to bring hundreds of representatives. The fleets and weapons spoke loudly enough. Sung Ho walked to the center speaking platform without asking permission. Vexthor, the council arbiter, started to object but fell silent when Sung Ho simply looked at him. "Honored Council," Sung Ho began, and there was bitter irony in the word honored. 3 years ago, Earth applied for membership in this organization. We followed every rule, met every requirement, and demonstrated our commitment to peace. You rejected us repeatedly. You called us primitive. You called us violent. You treated our ambassadors with contempt. He paused, looking around the chamber at the faces and other sensory organs watching him. Then, when you thought we were weak enough, 7 of your members attacked our colonies. Over 100,000 civilians died. Men, women, children, elderly people, all killed because you believed we couldn't fight back. And when we asked for help, you called it an internal dispute. The chamber remained silent. Several council members looked at the floor, unable to meet the human's gaze. "But here's what you didn't know," Sung Ho continued. "For 30 years, while we smiled and asked politely for acceptance, we were preparing. We studied your warfare and found it lacking. We developed weapons you considered impossible. We positioned forces throughout your territory without you noticing. We became strong while you remained arrogant." Admiral Emeritus Hyojin stepped forward. She was an elderly woman who had commanded Earth's military before Su Jin, a legend in human military history. Her presence emphasized the seriousness of the moment. "The Battle of Velkar Prime lasted 37 minutes, she said, her voice steady and clear. 50 human ships defeated over 200 Velkari warships. We did the same at 6 other systems. Your military forces, which you believe superior, were crushed, not because we're stronger, but because we're smarter. We fight to win, not to follow ancient traditions." She activated a holographic display that showed the Ouroboros network. "These platforms have been active for weeks now. We could cripple every major trade route in council space within 1 hour. We could destroy military bases, shipyards, and communication stations without ever entering your territory. We have that power." The council members shifted uncomfortably. Some species had already tried to disable or destroy the platforms near their space. All attempts had failed. The platforms were too well defended and too numerous. "But we won't use that power," Hyojin said, "because we're not conquerors. We're not the monsters you believed us to be. We just wanted to be left alone to build our civilization in peace." "You wouldn't allow that." Sung Ho stepped forward again. "So now we're here to dictate terms. Not to negotiate. Not to compromise. To tell you how things will be from now on." He pulled up a document and displayed it for the entire council to see. "First, Earth receives immediate full membership in the Galactic Council with Security Council status. We will have full voting rights and veto power over any military actions." Several council members started to object, but Sung Ho's cold stare silenced them. "Second, the 7 species that attacked our colonies will pay reparations. The amounts are listed in the document. The payments will go to rebuilding our colonies and supporting families who lost members in the attacks. Third, every council member who voted to approve or ignore the attacks will be removed from their positions and face trial for war crimes. We have evidence of their involvement. Justice will be served." This caused an uproar. Dozens of species began shouting and making various sounds of protest. Vexthor tried to restore order, but the chamber had erupted into chaos. General Su Jin stepped forward and activated a control device. Immediately, every display in the council chamber showed live feeds from human warships positioned throughout council space. Hundreds of ships, all armed and ready. The chamber fell silent again. "We can do this peacefully," Su Jin said quietly, "or we can do it forcefully. Your choice." Sung Ho continued as if there had been no interruption. "Fourth and most important, the council will reform its membership policies. Any species that meets basic criteria for space travel and peaceful intent will be granted provisional membership immediately. No more decades of waiting while you judge whether they're civilized enough. No more gatekeeping by the powerful to keep out the developing species." This demand surprised many council members. They had expected Earth to seek power or territory. Instead, the humans wanted to change the system itself. "Why?" asked a council member from a species called the Tyranni. "Why demand this?" It doesn't benefit Earth directly. Jiwan stepped forward to answer, because we remember what it felt like to be dismissed and belittled. We remember asking for help and being ignored. We don't want other species to experience that. The Council should represent everyone, not just the ancient civilizations that got here first. She looked around the chamber. The galaxy is full of developing species trying to find their place. Some of them might become dangerous if left isolated and resentful. Others might achieve greatness if given the chance to contribute. You've been so focused on maintaining your own power that you've forgotten the purpose of a council: to bring civilizations together, not keep them apart. Sung-Ho pulled up another document. We have identified 12 species that were denied membership despite meeting all reasonable criteria. They will be granted entry immediately. Over the next year, we will review every species that has applied and been rejected. Many of them will join as well. Vexthor finally found his voice. This is unprecedented. You cannot simply rewrite millennia of tradition. Watch us, Sung-Ho said, echoing Jiwan's words from 3 days earlier. You have 48 hours to vote on our terms. If you reject them, we will withdraw from the Council entirely and enforce our own peace. Our weapons will remain active. Our fleets will patrol our territory and any systems that request our protection. And every species that threatens us or our allies will face the same fate as the Velkari. He paused, then added, but if you accept, we will deactivate our weapons, integrate our fleets into Council operations, and share our technology for peaceful purposes. We will help you build a better galaxy. We would prefer that option. Peace is still our first choice. But peace must be real, Admiral Taeyang added. Not the false peace where the strong dominate the weak and call it civilization. Real peace, where all species are truly equal and protected by law, not by the mercy of those more powerful. The Council members looked at each other. Some were angry, some were afraid. Some seemed thoughtful, considering the humans' words. Senator Crix, who had mocked Earth so brutally 3 weeks ago, spoke hesitantly. If we agree to these terms, what guarantee do we have that you won't simply conquer us later? You have the power now, Hyunwoo answered. Because conquest was never our goal. We built these weapons as insurance, not as tools of expansion. Every ship, every platform, every weapon system we've revealed was designed for defense or deterrence, not invasion. We could have destroyed your homeworlds, but we didn't. We could have killed millions in these battles, but we targeted military assets and let civilians escape. Our actions speak for themselves, Jiwan added. And because we know what it's like to be weak, we were there just 3 weeks ago, asking for your help and being refused. We won't become you. We'll be better. Vexthor called for a recess. The Council would deliberate and vote in 24 hours. The human delegation returned to their ship. They had said what needed to be said. Now they would wait. On the ship, Sung-Ho stood looking out at the Council station. Sujin joined him. Do you think they'll agree? She asked. They don't have much choice, but yes, I think they will. They're afraid now. Fear makes people reasonable. And after? When the fear fades? That's why we keep the Ouroboros network active. Not as a threat, but as a reminder. Peace maintained by strength is still peace.